Hey, everybody. Welcome to the What the Wealthy Do podcast, where we spend the next 15 minutes pulling back the curtain on what the wealthy do to build wealth and show you how you can apply it to your everyday life while you're on your wealth building journey. I am Stephanie Dorsey. I am your host, as well as the CEO and co-founder of Margins Capital. Margins Capital is an investment firm that focuses on providing women and people of color access to an institutional quality investment portfolio of alternative assets. But before we jump in, I got to say, this podcast is not intended to give you financial advice. It is intended to give you financial education. Today, we're talking about something that a lot of people don't know about. So we're going to talk about self-directed IRAs and Rollover Business Startup 401ks, or ROBS 401k. These are just amazing investment vehicles, especially for folks who are traditionally marginalized, for folks who are on their wealth building journey. This is just a wonderful way for you to get in the game, and that game is alternative investments. And so let's talk about them. All right, a self-directed IRA. So most of us, and those who listened to last week's episode, are familiar with traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs. And those things are amazing. But a self-directed IRA is kind of a super IRA, where it allows you to invest not only in the public markets, stocks, bonds, anything that's traded on the stock exchanges. It allows you to invest in the private markets, which are things that are investments that are not found and traded on stock exchanges. These are considered alternative investments like venture capital, private equity, commercial real estate, and the like. You can basically invest in almost anything except for life insurance and collectibles, and there are some limitations, but the big alternative investments, you can get access to them. So how does it work? You set up your self-directed IRA with a custodian. So you go and you find one, you Google it, you look at the reviews, you figure out which ones you feel are the safest ones. You do your due diligence, your own personal due diligence, and you go with that company. That company will be your self-directed IRA custodian. You fund this self-directed IRA account with cash if you wanted to, or you could fund it with old 401ks. Yes, you heard that right. That job you left last year, that job you left 10 years ago, that 401k that's been sitting there and you have all these different 401ks scattered about in different places. You can combine them all and put them in your one self-directed IRA. This is not investment advice, but one thing I would like for you to think about. If you put it in your self-directed IRA, you get the option to invest it wherever you want. It could be directly into stocks. It could be into a company. It could be into alternative investments, things of that nature. If you roll all your old 401ks into your current 401k with your current employer, you are limited to invest in only the investments that are offered by that current employer's plan. So you do the math after that. Like, you figure out what makes sense for you. I do want to highlight again, you can't take money out of your current 401k, so your current employer, you can't take money from that 401k and put it in a self-directed IRA, but your previous employer, you absolutely can. Of note, the tax treatment for your self-directed IRA is the same as a traditional IRA. So unfortunately, as your money grows in this self-directed IRA, you will have to pay taxes on it once you start taking distributions, unless you at some point decide to roll it over into a Roth. Of note, I do want to call this out, and I want you all to be very, very careful. There are IRS rules against self-dealing. Don't try to be cute and use your self-directed IRA to buy a vacation home that you're going to be living in or have in the south of France or wherever, right? Because the IRS is going to be like, that's not a business. That you try and be cute and you bought yourself a home with your retirement income, and we're not doing that. So you just want to speak to your custodian, do your research to make sure that whatever investment you choose to invest in, specifically whatever alternative investment you choose to invest in, will not trip any self-dealing rules, because ain't nobody got time for that. Okay. One other thing I want to say about self-directed IRA. So I had a couple of friends who left their job and their mindset was like, oh, I can't make any investments. I don't have a job anymore. And I agree in terms of you probably should not be spending your cash on different investments because you need to figure out and keep a roof over your head and do all the things. However, don't forget, you don't have that job no more. So that means all the money that was sitting in your 401k, you have the right to do with it whatever you will. And you should always be rebalancing your retirement accounts, just normally, right? You should always be making sure you have enough money in growth stocks, you have enough risk, you have enough money in bonds, you have enough money in emerging markets, you have enough money in foreign markets, you have enough money in domestic markets, you have enough money in tech. Like, you should regularly, consistently be evaluating, right? So that could be, maybe you're the type of person that looks at it once a quarter, once every 2 quarters, or once a year, but you should be looking at it. When you lose a job or leave a job, this is a really good time. I know you are thinking like, oh God, oh God, oh God, I got to figure out what my money gonna be. But you can't get your retirement amount money anyway. You shouldn't get it anyway, right? You need to let it continue to be out here working for you. And anyway, because, who knows when's the next time you're going to be making contributions. A. B, this is a good time now for you to move your money from that old 401k to a self-directed IRA. And, well, it might be a good time, but you shouldn't absolutely shut down like, I'm not doing this. It might be a good time for you to evaluate how and where I want to move my money from my old 401k from my previous employer to a self-directed IRA so I can redistribute it and make sure that I have 10% or 20% or whatever matches my risk profile invested in the different strategies that I believe in and that are consistent with my risk profile. So my point is, don't automatically shut down, don't automatically contract because you are no longer working at that job. It's always an opportunity for you to expand and be open to different opportunities. Especially, you just don't want to get into a place where you have 401ks all over the place, where you're managing 4 and 5 different 401ks in different places. You kind of want to put them in one place, and that place is likely in a self-directed IRA, not necessarily in a 401k, especially at your new job. So let's talk about the ROBS 401k, or the Rollover Business Startup 401k. This thing is dope. And I'll be honest, this is how I was able to come up with my half of the money to start Margins Capital. What it is an IRS approved structure that allows you, unlike a self-directed IRA, allows you to take money from your current 401k or IRA and move it into a new 401k for your newly started business. So if you're an entrepreneur, you want to start a business, what you can do is get with a specific custodian and set up an existing 401k for that business. So I have Margins Capital 401k, right? And I started that. I moved my old 401k from Capital One to my Margins Capital 401k. And we moved to a whole new platform and everything. But that allowed me to invest some of my Capital One 401k into my Margins Capital business. Because what you can do with the ROBS 401k is make investments into your existing business, right? Isn't that amazing? So you fund your own startup. So basically how it works is your new business 401k. So my Margins Capital 401k owns shares of Margins Capital in that 401k. So the ROBS 401k is a way for you to bootstrap your business. Instead of waiting till you're 59 and a half to take your money out, you can start to use that money today to start a business. Now, if your business takes off, woohoo, yay, we are happy. This is great, right? For me, for Margins Capital, it makes sense. We're just an investment company, right? So I just used my 401k to invest in other companies and commercial real estate or other alternative investment deals, right? I'm saying this because be thoughtful if you want to use your 401k to start a food truck or a restaurant that has like a 90+% fail rate, right? Because that's your retirement. And you don't want to be frivolous with it. I know we have dreams, we have goals, but we need to be really, really thoughtful. High risk, high reward in the startup world. Most startups fail. So be thoughtful about using a ROBS 401k to fund your startup. But again, I'm saying this to you, I've done it and I have not lost sleep over what I've done. But I did not use my entire 401k. I used part of it to fund half of it, and then the rest of it I got invested in various traditional public equities and the like. So I'm not saying do as I say, do as I do, but be thoughtful. All right, a couple things to consider though with your ROBS account, because they are tricky and it is really easy to get into the self-dealing realm and get your hand slapped by the IRS. So like for instance, any contribution that I made could not go to my salary. I had to be really, really clear about where my contributions went, and mostly they went to other investments. And I can only pay me through the money that Michelle contributed or through revenue. So be careful about that. Also, you need to be thoughtful about the custodian you choose. Look at the fees that are associated with that custodian, because there are fees associated with it. But so far, I mean, I did have one annoyance this year because I didn't fully understand the implications of some of the decisions I made. But all in all, it made sense. I would do it over and over again, right? I wouldn't have pulled out the money that I did in the ways that I did it last year. But all in all, I've had a really good experience with it. And so you have to be careful to not get into trouble, and don't try to get cute. We don't try to get cute with the IRS. The IRS, man, we don't want the alphabet boys coming for us. But it is a very manageable way. Like, you know how not to get in trouble. Like, it's very clear when you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. Okay, and a couple more things when we're talking about a self-directed IRA and a ROBS account, a ROBS 401k. We're going to talk a lot more about alternative investments. Like, you just don't want to put all your eggs in one basket ever, right? Diversification is a thing. It's a wonderful thing. And so just because you can, don't. Right? It doesn't mean you should. So you want to be thoughtful about that. Also, these are not DIY accounts. They are not. Like, don't try to save your money and avoid a custodian or a CPA or someone to help you navigate this world. Pay the money, right? Because you can get yourself in trouble and it will cost you more in the end. So just pay the money and work with a professional. And yeah, that is it. Just remember, the wealthy, they use every tool available to them to build wealth. And I want you to do that too. Just because you haven't heard of these accounts, if you haven't heard of these accounts, that doesn't mean that people aren't using them and thriving and doing a wonderful job. Like, I have LPs who have, or limited partners who have self-directed IRAs. I have used the ROBS 401k. So people are using these things to build wealth. And so you could do some more research to figure out whether or not it makes sense for you to use them yourself. Again, the wealthy, they don't play no games out here. Use your privilege. They use their privilege. I want you to use yours too. Okay. All right. That is it for today's episode. If you found this helpful, please save it, like, share with a friend, subscribe to the What the Wealthy Do podcast on your favorite listening platform, and we will see you next week. All right. Bye.